What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Pixelated Echoes. We're on episode 37. I forgot to check my mic, but I'm sure it's good. We are at the end of March. It is now March 30th, 2025. Of course, I'm your host, 3-Bit, and we got a great show lined up for y'all today. We're going to get some I Told You So's in this show. It might get a little spicy, not gonna lie, and we're also gonna jump into Speculation Town. So if you guys are jumping on in, appreciate everybody people who jump in live, and then we also get a lot of people who just watch afterwards. So for the people in the future, appreciate y'all as well. To our audio listeners, shout out to y'all. Shout out to everyone who checks out our content. Poison, just let me know how my mic's sounding. He's pretty Poison. Something I appreciate about Poison. He's one of those moderators that, like, I don't know. I just see him in places. I'm like, oh, look at you! You just helping people out. Like, I see you, Poison. You know, I appreciate you. So to my good bud, the co-host, gonna jump straight into the introductions. The Fuzzy Belvedere, how you doing today, man? And what have you been playing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Glad to be here with you. Thanks everybody in the chat for coming out today. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Finally got to Yasuke and just chopping arms and heads off kind of thing. The brutality is amazing. Yeah, I don't know if I need to sit on a psychiatrist's couch in reference to it, but yeah, I've just been having fun playing that. But the one, I guess, gripe, he is not as nimble climbing things or getting to some of the viewpoints. So I have to switch back and forth. So Naoi can do like the opening of the areas and stuff. And then he'll just, like clean house and take out all the people in those areas. But yeah, just been having a lot of fun with that game. Still having fun with Forza Horizon 5. Waiting for the Realms update coming in, well, later this coming month or in April. There's going to be some cars I can finally unlock that I kind of missed out on when I took a break from it a couple of years ago. But yeah, waiting for that. And then Gran Turismo 7 had a recent update where they expanded upon their Sophie AI, which if anybody's not aware, their Sophie AI is supposed to be trained more so on like their champion drivers, and it's able to look not just at the racing lines that you would normally pre-program in like a racing game, but it's supposed to take advantage of like other drivers' mistakes to pass or to try to overtake them, either outbrake them in the corners or, set it up where they're on the inside upcoming turn, even if they start on the outside on the ongoing turn kind of deal. So it's an improvement over like typical AI in the game, but the drawback is, as great as that is, that you can now use them in custom races, they still only do single file rolling starts, which is a tragedy in racing because I've watched a lot of different variants of racing. I don't think any racing currently does single file rolling starts. Like the ones that do grid or like kind of staggered side by side, pretty much with the exception of the Indy 500, they're all double file rolling starts. Indy is like a 3 wide rolling start, but it's just because of the way the tradition is for that track and stuff. But I don't know why the sim community hasn't outcried about it, but it's like the most annoying thing because the lead car, if you don't choose to be the lead car, doesn't count the clock or doesn't start the clock. It's once you start the clock but somehow, unless you pass the leader, there's no way for you to get the fastest lap. I don't know. It's just a weird legacy, bad programming thing that I wish more, sim racers or those in racing in general would, speak out about, because single file rolling start is like so 1980s at this point. It needs to be fixed. That should, I mean, I applaud them on adding Sophie to custom races, but single file, no, it's not it in 2025. They need to do better. and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. I let's see. I've been really wanting to jump back into racing. Um, because I was looking at some gameplay I had a long time ago. I think it was for Need for Speed. Maybe it was Underground 2 or something. It was a really this really old gameplay, and I made my own Mach 5 Speed Racer car. It's my favorite car. Um, and I made my life like really difficult because like you're supposed to upgrade your car, over time. Like the game gets harder because it's like scaling the car to the car's like specs throughout the campaign missions and things like that. Um, but I was like, no, I worked so hard on this car, so like I'm not changing, So I intentionally made it harder because I thought it was like a really dope car. I don't think it was Underground 2. It was one of the Need for Speed games. Struggling to remember, but yeah, incredible game. But it's been making me really want to go back and check out some other racing titles. Mostly like arcadey. I'm in the arcadey mood right now, so might go recheck out Midnight Club,
Yeah.
something like that. I want to make a car and go through like a story, like something like that. Just something cool like that. Any recos there?
Actually, that the Tokyo Midnight Tokyo Drift, or not Tokyo Drift, but the one game that Mav and Pong were playing.
Mm,
That one's a good one because you start off with a real basic car and you kind of work your way up, street racing through like the highways system of Japan and stuff. It has that old arcadey feel,
thank you.
but it's they've been making steady improvements on the visuals, steady improvements on the tuning. Some of those boss cars are near impossible to beat. You have to use the traffic to kind of pit them against, or get them, trapped between the traffic and the barriers and stuff. But other than that's a good one. I mean, Forza Horizon is always a good one. It may not really have that story aspect, but they do have mini stories. Instead of it being like a racing career, you have the donut story where basically you start with either a high end car that you're fixing up, or you can start with a low end car that you fix up to beat out the high end car. You have the fastest like story thing where it's basically a lot of high speed cars and you're trying to race against almost like this like racing club kind of thing and outdo them in their expensive cars and stuff like that. So they have a lot of little mini stories, but not like a career where you start off with just one car and kind of build up. Although you can kind of do that on your own with a lot of the festival races and stuff. But outside of that, I know there's some mods I've done with GTA 5 that are probably still out there, at least on PC anyway, where you can kind of do something like that. But then if you really want, it's a lot of extra downloaded material to do, like the officially licensed cars that aren't in the game because of reasons. But like I know when I had the my heavily modded GTA, I had all of the, like, instead of having like the fake ones that they put in the game, like the Crockett or whatever, which is basically like a Corvette. I forget what they call the Banshee for instead of the Viper.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, replace all of those with like the real badges and headlights and taillights and all that stuff, and it can be interesting. But then you have to kind of worry about speeding past the cops because they also, like in that mod, it winds up being almost like a Need for Speed with Hot Pursuit kind of
Yeah,
deal.
yeah,
And the last thing you want is for it to become like 5 stars where they got the tanks because you're not dodging a tank. They basically flatten your car instantly. But outside of that, I'm pretty sure there's a couple other ones like uh, not grip. What's it called? Grip.
mm.
Grid.
Grid.
Grid 2 or Grid
Oh yeah, yeah.
Legends.
Hmm.
That one's a good like story racer kind of thing where you're pit against like other competitors. Although it's not like you start your own regular car, you'll at least get like something in like a racing series and you can put your own livery on it and stuff like that.
Mm.
So it makes you feel like you're like a grassroots
Can you
race car
somewhat
driver.
like customize in that one? Like if I wanted to make a Mach 5, or is it more so like it's more so about the specs of the car, you think?
You can customize it as far as for making it like a Mach 5. You can definitely go with those types of paint schemes, although you may have to wait until you get to like the convertible, like the open
Oh,
top
yeah,
cars,
yeah.
like the Miatas and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, but you can definitely do some customization, but not quite towards like the Mach 5 per se, other than just the look of it. But a lot of it is more so like you don't get as much of the tuning. I think you get tire options and you get transmission options, maybe some suspension options later on type of thing. But it's mainly like uh, racing against like your rivals. Like they give you like your the whole field of cars you're racing against, but then there's going to be one or two, primarily one that you may have pissed off that is out to get you in each race kind of thing. So it's almost like the Nemesis system, but in racing kind of thing.
Heck
So
yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, those are great recommendations. I just randomly started being like, I'm in a racing mood, and
Mhm.
listen, I try to stay almost on task with with some of the games coming out because I'm like, I gotta play AC Shadows, I gotta finish Avowed, right? I gotta
Mhm.
finish up. I started hours of playthrough with Yakuza,
Mhm.
like a dragon, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I try, but I don't know. I really I just there's so many games I want to play at once where I'm just like I almost want to throw out that list and just be like, screw it. I'm just gonna play like Streets of Rage or some racing game, you know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm trying to do that just because I know like I want to beat Avowed. I've been talking about Avowed for years, you know, and I
Mhm.
think it's such a good game, and I want to know what the end game is, you know. So just it's just so frustrating sometimes. I'm like, there's so many freaking games, so little time. Um,
Yeah.
but
It's
it's
going to get worse in like a week or so because like Adam Fall is that game that's out there
oh
now
yep.
that I want to give a try. I know some people didn't necessarily have the best reception of it, but it seems like it's going to be an interesting thing, especially if you wind up killing an NPC that could have helped you out later, kind of thing. But because of AC Shadows and the fact that I haven't finished Avowed yet, it's like Adam Fall's going to have to wait, but it's going to have to wait even longer because South of Midnight's right around the corner.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
like I gotta find another game between now and then. I gotta beat before Expedition 33 as well. But if I'm not finished South of Midnight, then Expedition 33 will have to wait as well. So yeah, it's a tough time, but it's a good tough time, I guess is about the best way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. It's good problems to have.
Mhm.
So we're definitely gonna jump into the first topic, but let me shout out to some of the peeps who are jumping in. We got It's Time, Sotnist, Poison. We got Calvin 360. Mazer Tech was jumping on in. Big Mad Mo always tends to drop in the show and check us out. Appreciate you. Kay Asante, hey man, good to see you. So shout out to everybody jumping on in, Max City, ENT, and everybody else who's listening, hiding in the shadows. I see y'all as well. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. All right, Fuzz, you wanna lead with the first topic, man?
Yeah, sure. It's been kind of a weird news period where I know we've had some people in the PlayStation camp complain about Xbox games and things like that and say that they're not good or, Game Pass fodder, blah, blah, blah. Well, a couple of games are coming over there and they seem to be doing like gangbusters right now. Xbox owned games are topping PlayStation Store sales charts. So basically, several of the most pre-ordered titles on PlayStation storefront right now come from Xbox-owned studios.
Yeah.
Microsoft has increasingly moved away from console exclusivity in recent years, and it seems like that shift is paying off for the company. While PlayStation exclusives are still getting plenty of attention on PS4 and PS5, although they're few and far between right now, uh, you one of Sony's largest competitors and is dominating its own digital sales at the moment. As Xbox has pivoted its focus from hardware to software and services, Sony fans have become a core part of its audience. PlayStation users are accounting for 64% of the spending on Microsoft's titles in
Hmm.
December of 2024, which rather ironically helped Microsoft or helped push Microsoft to become the world's biggest game publisher for the period. It seems that that trend isn't slowing down anytime soon, as Xbox-owned games make a significant portion of the best-selling pre-orders on PlayStation Store heading into April. The Bethesda-published Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is currently #1 on pre-ordered games of the PlayStation Store. Its second most pre-ordered title on the list, too, thanks to the premium edition being a separate listing.
Wow.
That may not come as a surprise, as Indiana Jones surpassed 4 million players on Xbox and PC within the first 2 months, so there were a lot of hype behind its PS5 release. What's perhaps more surprising is the at least 6 other Xbox-owned games sit in the PlayStation Store's top 24 pre-orders, including a couple more spots in the top 5. So you got Forza Horizon 5 accounts for 3 slots in PlayStation Store best-selling pre-orders lists, thanks to it having like 3 versions.
Mhm.
Similarly, Doom: The Dark Ages takes up 2 more spots, and recently announced Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 make an appearance too. So basically, it seems like all those years of PlayStation guys and gals claiming that Xbox had no games, that they were subpar. It seems like they were just saying that because they didn't want to admit that there were games that they were interested in. They didn't want to, I guess, show that interest in them at that time. But now that they're available, they're taking up all the top spots. So
Yep.
I'm looking to get your thoughts on this kind of like, I know we've called it like the Trojan horse, scenario where they're basically infiltrating their sales charts. But like, I don't think there's been a time where any other publisher, including PlayStation themselves, have had this many top selling pre-order slots on their store. So what is your thoughts as far as this trend or just in general how this takeover is going with Xbox titles on PlayStation?
Yeah. I mean, I thought Indiana Jones was Janky Jones, you know, according to some PlayStation fans out there. But here we are, right? No, I think I think Xbox's strategy, like years ago, when they said they were going to purchase all these different studios, and and as Xbox fans, we've been sort of waiting for that moment. Like, when is this going to pay off? When is this going to pay off? I think them purchasing all those different studios, they are now in the position where they are constantly just releasing games every year at this point, like a few quarters. They're just releasing a new title. Meanwhile, Sony is really struggling, trying to release a first party title. And we are seeing the result of like, well, here's an Xbox game on Sony's store. And all these years that people say like, oh, I don't really want that game, you know, it kind of sucks. Xbox is known for bad quality games despite the good reviews on stuff like Forza Horizon. Like, Xbox can't make a good game has been like a sentiment, yet you know, you get a game like Forza Horizon, which PlayStation can't even hope to do in a lot of ways. Or you get like a Halo that Sony has been trying to replicate Halo for so many times. How many times have we heard from Sony, oh, we're making a Halo killer? Ooh, you know.
It killed itself.
Yeah, it's basically killed itself. So Xbox for a while has set themselves up in different ways, like multiplayer wise, for sure, like getting studios who are acquainted to doing multiplayer. Sony has been struggling with that, kind of filling these holes that Sony has basically felt really comfortable in this specific genres in a lot of ways with their, you know, action adventure. They're super good at it. They're like, I would say they're the kings at doing that genre. But there's other revenues, other genres that they've been trying to make, but they've been failing in. So I think that it's the result of really good planning over the years. It took a while to pay off, but now we're seeing the result of buying so many studios, cementing yourself of having a really good pipeline over time. And now that we're seeing all these pre-orders, this upscale Sony's own first party titles on their own platform, we're seeing that people really did want these games. They really did. It was just the fact that it wasn't available on their platform, that it was just like, it's jank, Xbox games suck anyways. But we're seeing that's not true, right? We've seen Sea of Thieves when it first came out on PS5, like how well that did on the store. It was like the top of the charts for quite some time.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing Forza and all these other games. Like, people are obviously interested in these games. They're not jank. They're not bad. They're just being available in more places. And I think for years, the narrative that Xbox has no games, we're witnessing that they do. They do have some games, and now it can bring the conversation forward of like, what does this do to the brand? Some people have talked about, like, on one hand, it risks diluting the Xbox brand by making exclusive titles available elsewhere. On the other, it opens up like new revenue streams and allows like a broader audience to experience these games. It's kind of like, to me, it's about tapping into a player base that might have never considered purchasing an Xbox console, but is more willing to buy the games if they're available on their platform of choice. And that's what they're hoping to do with these moves. Like, a ton of people who was like, wow, Forza Horizon looks like an incredible game, but I'm only on PS5. I'm not buying an Xbox, Now it's like, well, now you got no excuse. You're like, oh shoot, it's on my PS5. All right, I guess I gotta get, that's the audience they're hoping to get. Now, like, some people could be like, what does that mean for the brand, and etc. I think in today's generation, it's like an interesting conversation, because Sony, they're starting to put their games on PC. Xbox has been putting their games on PC. I don't think it's about a brand conversation anymore. I think it's more so like, how are they offering, like, I guess, features for their consumers in the best way. At least to me, that's what matters. Like, yes, I can get Forza on Game Pass and stuff. Can I move it across a PC and Xbox to on mobile? Like, what is the features is kind of bringing to me? But yeah, we'll see if it pays off. Honestly, this is still like early-ish. Xbox has been, I guess, they released Forza. They released Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded. And those did pretty well. I think the only one that didn't do well was Pentiment. Because it's Pentiment.
I mean, it's a smaller type game. It's a niche appeal to some extent, but it is that like good story telling type of game. But it wasn't meant necessarily for the masses. But the fact that they still were able to get some revenue from it is that much more to put towards. I don't know necessarily a Pentiment 2, but it definitely helps Obsidian in getting more green lights for some other games down the road, or additional funding to put towards a Grounded 2, or for Outer Worlds 2 and things like that. So it served its purpose. I mean, I enjoyed the game. I haven't finished it, but it's like with many games, I started and then it's like, ooh, another piece of candy, and got me distracted onto another game that came into Game Pass. But one thing I do want to say, kind of like what you had touched on, as far as like with putting the games on PC and PlayStation finally getting around to it, kind of thing. Something that Phil said at I guess the business update last year, and I know a lot of people like to throw knives or point the finger at him about some stuff, but he made mention that you either have to monetize your current customer base or find additional consumers out there. And this is an example of them finding more consumers abroad, as opposed to beating us over the head with constant price increases either on games or on things like Game Pass, or raising the price of controllers and so forth. They found additional revenue by expanding the audience, outside of PC, outside of mobile, onto other platforms and things. Meanwhile, if you look at what PlayStation's doing, they're recycling to some extent, or remastering, or rebooting some of these, or remaking some of these games, where they're selling you the same game over again with updates, visual updates, maybe a content add-on type of thing, but it's essentially the same game, just for a kind of like, same car, new paint kind of thing. And with that being said, that's how they monetize their own customer base. They raised the cost of the controllers. I think it was like $5 or $10. Um, they were the ones that really charged ahead to raise the price of games to $70. They were also the ones that wanted you to pay the $10 upgrade. Even though you bought the new console that came with the new haptic feedback controller, instead of that being a benefit to those that bought the hardware, where it's an included thing for your existing software, no, they want you to pay the extra 10. So that's monetizing your existing customers, and that's kind of how I see that, as like nickeling and diming, as opposed to like finding other customers beyond your normal boundary or ecosystem. Yeah, it may not sit well with some of us, graybeards, or those that are used to the traditional console model, but I much rather have them do that than to charge me, each year an extra $5 or $10 more on Game Pass, or start charging, $10 more for the controllers and stuff. And they were the ones that held out the longest before going to $70 for their games in the beginning of the generation and
Oh yeah.
stuff. So it it has its pros and cons, but all things considered, I look forward to it as finally getting past the conversation of people that have never played an Xbox game crapping on them just because it's not on their platform. And it's like, now you have the chance to play it. When you play it, you can't feed the same bull crap that you were saying, like, oh, it doesn't look great, or it's not as good as this, or it's just an arcade racer. Yeah. But it's a fun arcade racer that even, some of the mainstream gaming media that have given its flowers for, people still think of it as like below Need for Speed somehow or something. So now
Yeah.
they'll get to see firsthand. Yeah, no, it was a great game back in 2019. It's still a great game even to this day, and they continue to support it. And oh, by the way, Indiana Jones probably should have won Game of the Year, but the Keeleys don't really believe in giving an time extension for Xbox games. They only do that for Sony
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But yeah.
I feel like Indiana Jones also would have been. I feel like it got somewhat of some grace because of the fact that it was coming to Sony's platform as well.
Yeah.
Like any potential thing where it's like, this game sucks. Oh wait, it's coming to play. Okay, never mind. It's high. It's high. We got some mini topics for you guys as well. I kind of want to get your take, Fuzz, on Steam coming to Xbox. So this topic is interesting just because of the fact, like, if you guys watched the last episode, that episode was like me coming to the realization a little bit of what this means. It was almost like a live realization of I guess the ripple effects of Steam possibly coming to Xbox and what that means for other platform holders and things like that. So just kind of expanding on that, Fuzz, like, what do you see Xbox possibly doing with Steam on Xbox? What do you think about it, essentially?
I think it gives their customer base access to something that they may not have normally been either willing to spend to get into, or even consider getting into, because there is that distinct line where a lot of console players may not be ready or wanting to be in the PC space, updates and so forth, upgrades, every so often type of thing. But the key thing that I see being a potential, W or big plus for Xbox owners would be the fact that there are a ton of games that a lot of people would love to play that only are available on PC. And sometimes they do come to console a year or two later, like Hades was that type of game. Hades 2 is now still kind of like in early access over there. No Rest for the Wicked is another one that's in early access over there. A lot of those, like I guess you could say chess cam or like the police cam kind of or body cam kind of first person
Oh
shooter
yeah, yeah.
games.
Like
There's a lot of those on Steam. Some good, some not so good, but there are a lot of them to choose from that some that have enough support where you can actually have a good match or at least get through the AI portions of the story that they have set so far and try those out on your console. Another one that I like would be like Ready or Not or even 6 Days in Fallujah, which yes, 6 Days of Fallujah is eventually going to come to console, but having access to it kind of early, it's almost like a kid in Christmas time. Like, sure, sometimes the early access stuff can be a little hit or miss, but there are some solid games over there that we might not see for a couple of years. On console. Like honestly, I'll say Undisputed was better before it came to console when it was in early access than it is now. And I have my own little gripes about it, but that all of that aside, that was one where had it not come to console quite so soon, it probably would be like a championed item knowing that you could play it on your Xbox because it only allows you to play with controller. There is no keyboard and mouse for that game, or at least when it was in early access. So that would have
mm,
been another darling in that Steam access type of thing. And there's going to be tons of them there. And I know some people are like, well, that takes away from the Xbox store, or how does that work? Where is Xbox making money? Let's agree to be gamers and not worry about who's making the money and what funds they're making in that regard, and just look at the access of games because the I guess the biggest thing would be you have a lot less games skip PC in that sense where you would still have access to them. And having Steam on Xbox from a digital store standpoint, I think the biggest thing that will probably help is the competition on pricing. Like when it comes to digital games, nobody really beats Steam other than like, well, CD keys, but that's a kind of a different approach on it. But
yeah.
as far as a mainline store, nobody really beats Steam for sales. Now you can go with the bundled deals through like I forget what it's called now, but it's like the not good old games, but the other one where the humble bundle type of deal because they still do those or buy one game at a certain low price, add another game for like half off for the second game and so forth. There's a lot of those types of deals out there, but Steam is the main one that will do like the big winter sale or the big summer sale or the big RTS sale or the big first person shooter sale and cozy game sales and things like that. So they're always having these deep discounts on these games where you see that occasionally on, well, you see it probably more often, at least I've noticed on Xbox than the PlayStation Store, but for Xbox to remain competitive because they're going to want to remain competitive with having, if you have access to your Steam library, we stand a chance of seeing or more sales more often, or even, more like Steam like prices in some regards when it comes to some of these titles. Now, some of them I know it's like 70 on console and 60 on PC kind of deal,
Oh
but
yeah.
all of that aside, I think having that competition on the box that Xbox is selling will mean that they'll more than likely adjust their pricing in their store to be on par, if not better, or more appealing. Like, hey, you're buying our first party titles and you have game like just like what they do now with if you have Game Pass, you get a discount on all the first party stuff or anything that's in Game Pass, you get like an extra percentage off. I totally expect to see more things like that where there's going to be big publisher sales and stuff where, yeah, there's a big publisher sale for WB games on Steam, but there's an extra 2% or extra 5% off on the Xbox store for the same title. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of it. Not just, having, PC games on a console, but just overall, I think this is going to, you know, benefit us as gamers, just knowing that we'll have access to more games. The story or the headlines won't be about, hey, this skipped Xbox again, because there's a handful of games from the East that are skipping Xbox again. Although some of those games I know not as many people are interested in comparison. But all of that being said, no one likes to have their ecosystem skipped. But if you have kind of like a backdoor way about it, you never have to miss out. So if
Right.
those developers choose not to, put it on Xbox's store, but it's on Steam store, hey, you still can buy that game if you choose to and play it on the hardware in front of your TV or basically your console without having to buy or build up your PC. So for those that are not interested in PCs at the moment, there's your I guess your big toe in the PC waters without it feeling like you're in the PC waters.
Yeah, 100%. And you brought up a good point. I didn't even think about, like, technically, well, not even technically, console games do charge more than PC titles, which makes no sense because, PC titles are spec wise better.
Mhm.
It's just because the PC audiences doesn't take crap. You're trying to charge 70, like, I'm not buying it, and they won't buy it. But console players, they'll be like, $70, I'm not buying that, and then they buy it.
Yeah.
So it's like the PC audience don't
Yeah.
play around. And then so you mentioned that, and I thought something I didn't even think about, and then the like PS games also. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be blocked somehow, or even if you can find a way. So Sony games like Spider-Man or Last of Us, which is on Steam right now,
Mhm.
you theoretically, if this goes through, would be able to play Spider-Man, Last of Us, God of War on your Xbox. Um, so that's interesting conversations. Interesting, like Uno reverse, right? And we're gonna get into like games that Sony tends to block later on, and it's another topic. We'll get to
Yeah.
that for sure. But a lot of interesting little things there, and I wonder if this could lead to like tiered systems too. If you're gonna go, if it's gonna be more like a PC, like could we possibly see upgraded specs in the future for the sake of lower costs? Like maybe you get your $600 next Xbox Prime, but then you can upgrade to the Prime Ultra tier or something
Mhm.
where maybe you can get a part that you can put inside of your Prime. I feel like if you're going that route of like partnering with Steam and stuff like that, then go for it. Go even further. See if you can just have upgraded parts, and that way people can get like lower specs and for a lower cost, and then if they wanted to upgrade, then they can. So yeah, I wonder what that's gonna lead to. But there's a lot of interesting ripple effects because like by Xbox having a Steam store, they basically are going around a lot of problems. Like right now, they want to expand into like Xbox everywhere, right? But there's a
Mhm.
couple things blocking them from doing that. Sony doesn't want Game Pass on their service, right? Nintendo's probably like, no. They've tried to appease them in court cases, being like, "Hey, look, Call of Duty will be on Nintendo. Sony, look, we're still partnering." They try different ways of like trying to solidify those relationships, but they are blocking them in this market. They're basically Sony and Nintendo tries to keep them at a certain place. Like you stay there, Xbox. Um, so Xbox for a while has tried to find different ways of competing in a market that's constantly trying to hit them down.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that because that's actually a super good segue, but I'm not going to get to it yet. Of the next topic because I kind of want to do one more mini topic about something, but let me read some chats really quick. Poison Maniac says unrecorded. I think it's called. That game is insane. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you mentioned that. That game looks incredible. There's a couple PC games where I'm like, whoa. Unrecorded was one of them. There's this other game called Precinct. That looks really interesting. It's like a
Yeah.
GTA, but you're a cop
Mhm.
instead. That looks pretty cool. And then there was another game like Unrecorded where they basically stole Unrecorded, but I can't
Yeah.
remember what that one's called.
And there's a horror one. Well, there's a couple of horror ones as well that are using that like body cam type
Yeah,
tech. So there's just so much on Steam. Like I hope we don't wind up getting overwhelmed. Like we're already overwhelmed with the way Game Pass is in general and the way the Xbox store is, but adding some of those other titles that only are playable on PC at the moment, I think that's going to be a interesting flood, and that might actually show like we don't have like a body cam game on console, but if there's enough interest in that and they start to see, oh wow, all these Xbox guys are buying, these body cam games, we should probably add something like that, like a mode for Call of Duty, or maybe that, PUBG makes a mode or something along those lines. Or, I'm surprised Fortnite doesn't have a mode like that just yet. But yeah, that could definitely help, shape some of the games that we actually start getting, because if we weren't, able to access those types of games before, and all of a sudden there's a, influx of customers buying those games, and it seems like they're all coming from the console crowd, that could also help, with the types of games that we see in the future as well. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's
Good
it's
point.
gonna get crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be insane. And then he follows that up with, "I doubt a company is going to do anything for charity like Xbox and Steam. I think Xbox gets a percentage or Game Pass with Steam partnership and integration type of thing." I
Yeah.
think so too. Like, if you're gonna have a partnership, like I think streaming service has a thing. Like, if you're, for example, I know they're the same company, but like Disney and Hulu, if people like enter in with a ESPN package, I'm sure there's some deal where they get some sort of percentage there, right? It's not just like, oh, because you got it on Hulu, ESPN gets nothing, and it's just a partnership where it's just free. I'm sure they would work that out on the back end, being like, oh, maybe like it's probably lower, but maybe like 2% or whatever goes to
Yeah.
Xbox if they access the game through Xbox or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they figured it out. I don't really like, Fuzzy mentioned that part, like where people are more worried about the logistics of how Microsoft is going to get money out of this. Like it I feel like that's been a lot of conversations with Sony fans in particular, not just with this specific thing, but it's a pattern I noticed with a lot of Sony fans where they look at something like Game Pass, don't look at the value of what it's necessarily bringing you, but worried about how is this possible? Like,
It's
why
not sustainable.
it's not sustainable? Like, why do I want a good value if in the future hypothetically it's going to like fail or something like that? Like, rather than what's there, you worry about like, how is this viable? Meanwhile, Sony is like doing 10 times worse with how they're charging people, how they are even like their first party pipeline is like what right now,
Mhm.
it's really a weird mentality for me personally when I see so many fans like, well, how is this going to be viable? Rather than being like, oh, this is kind of cool. This as a consumer benefits me to have Steam on Xbox because I can finally, have my library on Steam and I like playing on Xbox, and it kind of just combines it. Like, that would be cool, right? That would be dope. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of cons as a consumer in that end, but it's amazing how people can like twist things and be like, "Whoa, how is Xbox gonna make money on this?" Like, what is, do I care? Not really. Just saying, like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, the funniest part is Phil will tell him, hey, Game Pass is sustainable. Oh, he's lying. Sean Layden will tell you this AAA industry is not sustainable. Well, they're still going to make bangers, right? They're still going to spend, all this money on. It's like they don't want to listen to one CEO, but a former CEO, they'll take everything he says as gospel, except for when it's kind of in a negative light for their own brand. So it's like, if I was, and I will say this, even when I was just a PlayStation player, I was more concerned about what they were delivering me as opposed to what their financials were. Like, I think Drive Club was a perfect example of that. Like, I paid, I guess it was like $90 or $100 or whatever for the Ultimate Edition. They screwed up on the online, which it was supposed to be an online game. I wasn't like, oh, how is this sustainable? No, I was like, hey, I paid full dollar for this, physical copy. Why are you giving away part of my physical copy as a freebie, as an apology? What do I get in return? Like, I already paid for this stuff. So it boggles my mind, but it, I don't know. People only worry about PlayStation players seem to worry more so about the grass on the other side of the fence as opposed to in their own yard kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm just enjoying games on both platforms, but more so on Xbox in general. But that's just me.
No, 100%. It's just that mentality is hard for me to grasp sometimes. Like, because maybe I'm like a very, I wouldn't say a selfish gamer, but like I worry about my own personal value, like what I see, whether it's games I purchase, whether like how I'm accessing those games, what am I getting out of the service I'm paying for monthly. And then I look on Sony service, I'm like, the cloud is all messed up. It's like double charging for games and things like that. Like, I don't know. So there are certain things I care about as a gamer that Xbox provides pretty well. There are certain things Sony does really well. Every company. So, but it's like, what do you find value in out of those three companies? Is my stance. But anyways, someone mentioned right under that, Nisa Hauer. He says, I think Hogue last week said legally PlayStation can't block Steam. That's what I was believing as well, but a lot of people are not going to believe that because of like how damaging it is to their brain of Xbox being able to play like Sony games. After a while being like, Xbox, we're getting all your games, and now it's like almost a reverse, like a Uno reverse. So it's like damaging people's brain. Like, wait, Xbox could play Sony games potentially? Like, what? They can't handle it right now. So I think once it happens, then people will be like, oh, I didn't care. So we'll see that exact scenario play out. It's very predictable. We will see. So the other mini topic I wanted to get through today, Fuzz, is GTA 6. So entire industry is waiting for GTA 6 to announce its release date. And in a new interview with Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two, he's basically like, y'all gonna keep waiting. Essentially. That's exactly what he said in the interview. He said, y'all gonna keep. No, he didn't say that. But he said the anticipation for that title may be the greatest I've ever seen, quote, for an entertainment property. And I've been around the block a few times, and I've been in every entertainment business there is. We want to maintain the anticipation and excitement, and we do have competitors who will describe their release schedule for years in advance. And we found that the better thing to do is provide marketing materials relatively close to the release window in order to create that excitement on the one hand and balance that excitement with unmet anticipation. End quote. This is like, it's such a baller move. Like the fact that not every company can do this, by the way, in my opinion. Like, they have almost like a year of marketing, they have to tell people about it, and so and then re-put it in people's minds and stuff. But it's just, to me, I think it's a great idea. It's like, I've already been waiting for years for GTA 6. I don't want to, they announce it now, and let's say it comes out next year, for example. I would just be annoyed. I'm like, oh, they're showing me all this awesome stuff that I'm going to try to forget about it on purpose, just so I don't have to think about it because it's so far away.
Mhm.
Or they basically like, oh yeah, this is coming out next month, and they release like a trailer for it, and you're like, ooh, let's go, and then you're thinking about it, think about it. So I think it's a good idea. But Fuzz, what do you think about his response, essentially?
Yeah, it's they dictate the market to some extent. Like that IP is I think above and beyond most other IPs in the industry. And I know, and I hate linking this direct to Xbox, but I know people gave them a lot of hate for their lack of marketing or their, you know, 30-day or 2 week in advance marketing. But it seems like it's probably based on their metrics to their advantage that you don't necessarily put the marketing that far out, especially if there's a potential delay or other unforeseen complications. But with GTA, they kind of hold all the cards. People have been looking forward to this game probably shortly after five came out, and we've had five for, was it like 12 years now or so. So it makes sense that you want to you know, build up that expectation or anticipation and cash in on it closer to when you're able to release it. Because if you get people excited in January for a game that might not be coming out until the following January, there's people that may lose some of that excitement or find another game in that meantime that takes up a lot of their time or enjoyment to the point where they might, pass on getting it at launch or hold off on GTA and as a whole. Now that's not everyone, but I'm pretty sure there's enough people that would. So keeping it close to a launch date, like the next trailer, and I know people have been predicting the next trailer like every week for, ever since the year began, kind of thing. Um, I'm hoping that we hear something soon, but I don't think anybody was really expecting this game prior to September or October-ish. But I wouldn't be surprised if, it winds up being in the middle of summer. That would be kind of awesome. It's like, oh, here's a trailer in June. Oh, by the way, pick it up in July. Yeah, people would lose their minds. The internet would probably crash and shut down for a day because of all the postings about it and stuff. But whenever this game has another trailer, you expect that, metrics on searching for GTA 6 release date is going to be through the roof. So much so that it'll probably be the trending thing on every social media platform and Google search and whatnot out there. So it's cool that they have that type of power and that type of following for this game. I'm looking forward to it. But I really just after 12 years, just release the game, release the trailer, release the game, in the next couple of months. Don't, if you're going to tell us, oh, it's 2026, tell us now, as opposed to,
Yep.
stringing us along kind of
Yeah.
thing. And tell us now so that way, if there is another publisher that's, going to or planning on releasing a cool game around the time when they expect GTA, they can just go ahead and release it this year as opposed to pushing it to next year kind of thing. But yeah, they got that power, and not many out there do. Like I think CD Projekt Red is probably the next closest one out there. Xbox with a lot of their first party stuff that's coming out. Dare I even say with what do you call it, Intergalactic for PlayStation? But we've kind of
Hmm.
found out that that's not going to be next year. It might be 2027 for that. So we'll see. But yeah, their title, looking forward to it. A lot of people looking forward to it. I hope these silly rumors of $100 edition being the
Oh
base
my
edition,
gosh.
I hope that's just somebody's, I wouldn't even say wet dream, but somebody's like stupid, fever dream kind of thing. Um, Hopefully they just go with a regular price point and do like maybe a deluxe edition at 100, fine. But in any event, They probably plan on breaking some records on pre-orders. Like I think the
Mm.
standard pre-order record is somewhere around 40 million or something.
For
Um,
from them.
no, for I think overall, and I can't remember if it was
Mm.
for GTA 5. I think GTA 5 first day pre-orders were like 20 million.
Mm.
So Cyberpunk didn't really, I guess, match it because I think they were at 16. But I can't remember if it was Elden Ring or if it was a Nintendo title. I think it was a Nintendo title that did the 40 million.
Mm.
So something from Nintendo because well, Nintendo is the attachment rate kings, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, we sold 50,000 console or 50 million consoles and we sold 55 million games. They're like the only ones that can do that type of stuff. So yeah, I think GTA 6, if it's not $100 edition, you know, as the base edition, they have a $70 edition. I think that thing does 40 million its first day, pre-orders and all. But we'll see. It'll
Yeah,
probably do more than that even.
it's definitely gonna break some records. I get so annoyed by people who are like, yeah, I could see this game being like $200, $400. Like, no, like I get. Here's the thing, I get it. All right, like GTA 6, I'm freaking hyped for. Right, like I probably would too. However, that's not the point. The point is, if you're like, yeah, let me pay $400, $500, they are going to charge that much. Would you rather pay $200, $400 for GTA 6, or would you rather pay the standard price? You know, the 60 to 70, you know, which would be really nice. Like, what would you rather do as a consumer, right? I don't care about the analysis and whatever, but it just sucks. That all these people are pushing out like, yeah, let's make it $200. You know, like, no, shut up. I don't want to pay that much, but dang. There's few games I would like if they did like a Halo. Like, I'm not even gonna say it out loud because then I'll jinx it. I will jinx it. But appreciate Web Dave. He's bringing some people on in. He's been rating us each show. Always appreciated Web Dave and everybody who's dropping on in. Got about 70 people watching us live. Appreciate y'all for checking us out. Just in time for this spicy topic. It's spicy to me, right? Because there's a history with this specific topic. All right. So, PlayStation has a dedicated team finding hidden gems like Stellar Blade, says SVP. So I'm gonna read some bits of this article. Now, this topic has like a whole history dedicated to it, right? And I'm gonna go through a lot of it. So first, let me read this article. Sony is known for its great first-party titles. Quote: games like Ghost of Tsushima and God of War Ragnarok are future PlayStation classics. However, as the game development time, I believe this is on the official blog, by the way, for Sony. However, as the game development time on AAA games like this continues to extend, PlayStation has partnered with other companies to bring some great titles exclusively to its console platform consistently. This is thanks to a dedicated team finding these hidden gems. According to SIE's Phil Rosenberg, SVP of Global Partner Development and Relations. That is a handful title of a name. In a recent interview, Rosenberg applauds the work of SIE's Content Ventures team. He essentially says that they help the company find hidden gems that are probably off the radar, like Stellar Blade. We have, for instance, in GDPR, Content Ventures team led by Christian Svensson. There's nobody better in the world than Christian and Sean Benson at finding hidden gems and nurturing up-and-coming companies that are probably off the radar for most of us, claims Rosenberg. They get tons of support from third-party account management team and the partner development team, who are often the very first point of contact. This team worked with Annapurna Games very early on games like Stray. Rosenberg continues. The same approach also led our support of Genshin Impact, Black Myth, Wukong, and Stellar Blade, for example, right? This strategy does seem to be working in PlayStation's favor. Stellar Blade was received well, critically garnering nominations at several year-end award events like the Game Awards. It also sold over 1 million copies within the first couple months it was released. That was the article. So here we are. So it's like, well. It's almost as if everything we've been saying on this channel and other channels about the Series S not being the case, not being the cause of Black Myth Wukong and it being an exclusive deal with Sony has been right all along. Right? The story behind Black Myth Wukong got a lot more interesting. So I have some receipts to pull up because I want to rewind to the time so people have the full context of what's happening. So let's rewind to the time. The game's director had previously blamed the Xbox Series S for why the game wasn't coming to Xbox at launch. He went on record basically saying the Series S was holding things back, citing hardware limitations, and the media jumped on it like usual, using it to prop this idea that the Series S is a problem for developers. Paul Tassi wrote an article basically titled "When's Xbox's Black Myth Wukong Release Date?" About that. That's the name of the article. Let me pull up a little something here. Okay. There you go. My thing is freaking out. All right. So, there's a picture when Xbox's Black Myth Wukong release date, and it says about that. So in that article, it essentially said, you may be wondering why Black Myth Wukong is not out on Xbox Series X or S and what its release date might be. Well, I have good news and bad news. Let's see. What is happening? Let me put it over here. Sorry, y'all. It's like the Sony's trying to get me. They're trying to stop me from releasing this information. All right. Bam. I put it on this one. All right. So this was the article. And in the article, it basically says, you may be wondering why Black Myth Wukong is not out on the Xbox X or S, what its release date might be. Well, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that no, this is not Sony buying a year of exclusivity or something from Game Science in order to keep it off Xbox for a long while. So Paul Tassi says in this article, like, no, it's not Sony buying a year. You know, they're not buying exclusives, etc., etc. Then he points out that the bad news is it may have something to do with stuff like in Baldur's Gate 3, where due to problems with the Series S not being able to run split screen, etc., etc., right? At the end of the article, he says, let me take out this picture. At the end of the article, he says, we are currently, Game Science essentially says, we are currently optimizing the Xbox Series X version to meet our quality standards. Game Science said, so it won't release simultaneously with the other platforms. We apologize for the delay and aim to minimize the wait for Xbox users. We will announce the release date as soon as it meets our quality standards. So that was in that article. So a lot of people around this time was saying like, oh, the reason why that Black Myth Wukong isn't on Xbox is because it won't work on the Xbox, and that they're having problems releasing it on the Series S. They're saying all this different stuff, right? Months later, in a Forbes article, another article from Paul Tassi, by the way, he mentions that the Black Myth Wukong director Fang Li lamented that the Xbox Series S's limited sharing memory was impossible to get the game optimized for without years of optimization experience. Right? I want to give you guys the full history of like why this is a bigger deal. Like Sony just announced this, but I don't think they recognize what they just basically announced. Right? I don't think they understand the full context of like what they just did. So the Black Myth Wukong, he's saying like the Series S's limited sharing memory made it impossible to get the game optimized without several years. Microsoft came out and they said, we're excited for the launch, this is quote, of Black Myth Wukong on Xbox Series X and are working with Game Science to bring the game to our platforms. We can't comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders, but we remain focused on making Xbox the best platform for gamers, and great games are at the center of that. So that was their response to that, right? They basically was like, listen, we're working with them, but we can't comment on the deals that they're making, right? They were like subtly trying to tell people like, listen, y'all, they have a deal with Sony, right? The director came out after that. He said it wasn't true. What Xbox was saying basically wasn't true. Microsoft came back and doubled down, and then they said, as we have said before, this is a quote, we're excited for the launch of Black Myth Wukong on Xbox Series X and S and are working with Game Science. They basically just said the same dang thing, right? We're working with Game Science to bring the game to our platforms. We'd prefer not to comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders, but we can confirm, this time they added this, we can confirm that the delay is not due to Xbox platform limitations that have been raised to us. Right? So even when Xbox said that, you had people out here saying like, nah, Xbox is lying. You know, Sony wouldn't do that, you know, and saying all this different stuff. I'm actually gonna pull up a video too, if it works. I know my stream is freaking out right now. Let's see. If it works, I hope it does. Let's see. Pull it up on here. I'm gonna pull up a video from the great. Yeah, if it works, let's see. Ooh, I'm so mad that my stream is not working right now.
But there was a memory leak issue with Xbox.
Here is a clip from Jeff Grubb. This was during all this stuff happening. So here you guys go.
That there was a memory leak issue with Xbox, and that prevented the team from being able to get it ready in time to release on Xbox. Paul Tassi and IGN are saying it's because Sony has an exclusivity deal. I talked to someone.
Ooh. Let's see, did it work?
I think it's working now.
I talked to someone and they're like, as far as I can tell, and this is someone who would know, that Sony has no like money marketing deal to keep this game off of Xbox. Now, is there some other thing that's happened here where Sony showed up and said, hey, here's some help to get this game on PlayStation, and maybe that were
right? So that was a clip from Jeff Grubb basically saying that like he heard from a source, like his source told him that like he heard there was no deals with Sony, that you know this didn't happen, that he heard it was a series that this is Jeff Grubb, right? The people that was like this the insider and you know all this different stuff, basically touting on to the rumors. This all happened around the same time that you know we were on stream talking about like Sony has a history of these type of deals, and it makes sense that Microsoft is telling the truth. Just based off even the court cases that Microsoft brought up different scenarios of games being blocked that initially were going to be on Xbox, but Sony came in and was like, no, here's some money, don't put it on their system, right? So my problem in the clip of him saying that is like as far as he basically said, as far as he knows, they have no money marketing deal with Sony. And so many journalists, so many insiders ran with the idea that this was somehow Xbox's fault, blaming the Series S again, when we've already seen it run games like Hellblade 2, Flight Sim, Alan Wake 2 more just fine. So to me, it's not even about console wars. It's more so about like transparency. Like, just say you made a business deal with Sony. Right, no need to throw another platform under the bus to cover it up, having millions of people blame the Series S as a potato, and like even when each time the Series S has been brought up, it as a problem, it always somehow gets discredited. If not immediately, then like years later or something like that. You had Rocksteady developers blaming it for performance of Gotham Knights. Immediately does it better with Suicide Squad. You had people citing it as a issue with Baldur's Gate 3, which led to better performance on all systems because of the optimization. Like, just tired of the Series S being the scapegoat that people are using for these lazy developers, or in this case, like to hide a deal with you're doing with another company. So I had to just lay that out for you guys, because there's a whole history behind like them just with Sony just being like, oh yeah, we're working with Black Myth Wukong. We've been working with Black Myth Wukong. It's not just that surface level, right? Like, there's a whole thing of like they've been keeping quiet this entire time while the devs are like, we're not working with Sony, like, you know, and then Sony basically just confirming what we've all been thinking the entire time. So, Buzz, I laid it out. I want to get your thoughts on the whole thing, of the history of it, of this new partner, or I guess it's been happening, like their dedicated team. So, just your overall thoughts, man.
When it comes to the Series S slander, let's say, I always laugh at the fact that if something is running on the Steam Deck, it can absolutely run on the Series S. Series S is more powerful than the Steam Deck by a bit. And I don't know why people are in this delusion that, well, Series S can't handle it because of the memory, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Look at the Steam Deck. Is it running on the Steam Deck? Yeah. Okay. Then shut up. Just plain and simple. That it's to the point where if you want to expose that you don't understand tech, then go ahead and say the Series S is a potato, but yet say, oh, this game runs great on the, you know, Steam Deck. I have both. And there's a reason why there was a thought process of the Series S being kind of like the future for handhelds, because it is more in tune with being like a beefier Steam Deck, you know, predecessor. Now the Z2 Extreme chips are a bit more potent, let's just say, but not so much so to the point where it exceeds it by a good bit. It's just more so of like power and control, or power draw at that point. But all in all, it just didn't make sense, especially with it being shortly after LYINN Studios found that if they just followed what the actual dev kits are meant to do, you could probably optimize your game better for everything, kind of thing. I don't know. It's always been explained to me, as far as from the dev kit standpoint, that if you make it for the Series X, you're just basically hitting a button to down, you know, dial it down a bit for the Series S, or you build it for the Series S and then turn all the visuals up, you know, open up everything that's in the RDNA 2, you know, tool set for like your ray tracing and your particle effects and all that other stuff for the Series X version of it. that's always kind of where it's been. It's like the trade-off was to keep the cost low for the Series S, so it's a 1080 to 1440 machine. But the whole thing with with Black Myth Wukong, it felt like another Stellar Blade situation. Maybe it wasn't quite the same where it was announced and then pulled kind of thing. I don't know if people remember before it was called Stellar Blade that it was actually, it had Xbox logoing at the end of its trailer. But that being said, that's Sony coming in and saying, you know what? We don't have anything for first party ready to go just yet. Why don't we just pay for this and do like we normally do kind of thing and money at it. Now they may not have quote unquote money hatted, the thing with Black Myth Wukong. I always thought it was more so kind of like what in an indirect way what they did with Callisto Protocol, send their engineers to help out with the reflections and other stuff to get it across the line to make sure that since they had the marketing deal, to make sure that the PlayStation version looked better or played better because they sent their team to assist them to kind of get this to meet deadline. Because I think the team was, kind of falling short on like at the 11th hour when it was close to its release window, and Sony just kind of helped them by sending bodies to help them make sure that the PlayStation version was at least ready and on time. And the Xbox version, they don't need reflections and mirrors because, hey, they don't have the marketing deal. So when it came time for Black Myth Wukong, I thought, considering that they weren't necessarily a team, familiar with, optimizing for console, which shouldn't be all that difficult compared to PC, where there's going to be devices out there with lower specs. But I always felt that they probably sent a team to kind of help get things across the line. And it still didn't run all that great on PS5. It's still, I think, even to this day, a bit choppy. It probably runs a bit smoother on the Pro, maybe with the piston turned off kind of thing. But I always felt that there was something to it. And when, Xbox said what they said, why would they lie on something that could easily be disproven? Like, and I know people will be like, well, what about VR? Well, the VR thing did happen. It's just a matter of, if you look at it in the long term, actually in the long term, they have their partnership with Facebook. Facebook became Meta. You all know the whole Oculus thing. And now you see that you can stream, Game Pass on the Meta Quest 3. Now, was there more to that partnership back in the day? I think so. But I think some of it was based on how Meta decided to adjust their path on AR and VR in general. And that didn't necessarily bode well for the hardware to be made by third parties on an Xbox and so forth. So we at least have that partnership. It took a while for it to come to fruition. It's not what everybody was expecting, but it is what was talked about. It's just that it's adjusted for whatever changes to the plan occurred behind the scenes. But all of that being said, if Xbox is saying, hey, we can't comment on partners that or deals that our partners make with other platforms or blah, 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 it's like there's got to be a there for them to do that, especially considering what was like Freebit said, like what was brought up in the ABK, court cases or court documents as far as how they like to money hat things or pay to keep things off that platform. That's their form of competition. This didn't seem like it was too far of a stretch, especially considering they have their whole initiative as far as like the China initiative, where they're going to that region or the Southeast Asia region outside of Japan as far as for titles or some hidden gems, let's just say, that they can bring under their wing, bring over to their platform and keep as a either timed exclusive or an outright exclusive on their platform. Now, to some extent, that's benefited some developers, some not so much. If you look at things like Square Enix, they've learned a hard lesson, and now they kind of regret some of their decisions they've made in the past. It looks like Stellar Blade is coming to PC, considering it only sold 1 million copies on PlayStation, which by all the social media posts, I would have swore that would have been a 5 to 10 million copy seller on PlayStation, but only selling 1 million. Let's see how well it does on PC, and maybe the dev will be able to recoup some of that expense. Now, I'm pretty sure their cost isn't at AAA level budgets like with Spider-Man and stuff like that, but I think they would have learned their lesson. Maybe next time release on both platforms simultaneously, or release on all platforms simultaneously, and probably benefit from sales numbers as opposed to the bag you take in the beginning. But yeah, there was always something that didn't smell right or didn't pass the sniff test when it came to, Black Myth Wukong being, on PlayStation, considering if you're looking at something that's going to be on PC and the device or the box that has more PC DNA linked to it with having the full RDNA 2 tool set to it, I don't know. It just felt like something had to make them either forget how to program for PC or made them forget how to, at least start from the base PC port and adjust as needed or dial things back. I mean, that just, I'm not a developer. I defer to you 3-bit on that, but it just seemed like something would have been a lot easier than they make it seem in comparison if they've already done PC ports. But
Yeah,
it is what it is.
to me it was like, because we actually have an episode where we talk about Black Myth Wukong and the specs of and what could possibly be happening here. Definitely go check that episode out. It's like me and Fuzzy just kind of dive into this topic, but like, to me, it's all about optimization, resources, and development prowess a little bit. Like with almost every game, like the modern day development cycle, to me, they focus on a lot of the wrong things up front. Now that they have extra bandwidth of power, like there's a reason why Halo 4, right, was able to fit on like an Xbox 360. But if that game came out, let's say another developer did it and tried to put it on the Series X, I can almost expect it to run worse, because a lot of developers have all this headroom now and they're like, ooh, and they are using modern day techniques to, as in kind of like a hindrance in a lot of ways. Like they develop the game and they're like, okay, cool, we got this tech to condense the texture sizes for us, we got this to handle this for us, we don't even need to optimize the game, we're good, right? And the game comes out and it's like Jedi Survivor, where it looks like clay, or you're running into walls and the frame rate is all over the place. It's like modern day development. I feel like they prioritize just the wrong things. Now that's a separate conversation, like whether or not they're capable of optimizing properly. A lot of people pointed out in the chat, probably not. This team runs pretty, or this game seems to run pretty poorly on PS5, even on PC for a lot of high-end specs. Now, can it run on some things? Like I've seen some people playing on Steam Deck, runs pretty cool, runs pretty okay. Yeah. But do I believe that where they are essentially like, oh yeah, it's not possible to take years? I don't think so. But like that's one side of the conversation, like whether or not they're capable of optimizing properly, probably not. The other side is like, hey, the developer was saying, I'm going to release this game on Xbox, but actually we can't release it because it's too hard to put it on the Series S. But the real reason was you had a partnership with Sony this entire time. So I think that's the shadiness of this whole thing, of them blaming the Series S. A lot of people are in chat having cracking up. They're pointing out different things the Series S did. You guys are I did not know Series S killed Tupac. That's one I didn't know. But no, like I think the whole thing about this is like the developers basically saying like, oh, we can't put this on Xbox Series X and S because it's too hard to develop for the Series S. It's like optimization wise, it will take us years to figure out. Meanwhile, in the background, this whole time, Sony's like, yeah, we've been partnering with Black Myth Wukong, and it is, to me, that whole thing is just funny and shady because Microsoft this whole time was like, yeah, we don't partner, we don't comment on partnerships. But now we've seen kind of the truth. But overall, can I see it in the future being on Xbox? Maybe. I think whenever this deal expires, or if it'll even ever expire, I could see it popping up on Xbox. But if it's on Steam already, then that's something Xbox doesn't have to figure out anymore. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But shout out to everybody for jumping on in. Bounty says the truth always comes out. Yeah. Time tells all with a lot of these things. Like a lot of stuff we'll bring up. We're like, I feel like Sony isn't responsible for this, but we'll see. And now we're seeing phase. Satnus says we need more devs who learn how to build something from the ground up, like the old ways, not just mix and match, drag and drop. I will agree with that. I think a lot of developers, modern day developers, they use UE5, right? Unreal Engine 5. And there are certain things in UE5 where the base that's in there, people will just use for their games, but it's there to use to help you get jump started. But I feel like what happens in a lot of UE5 games is like they use it to get jump started and then they keep it there. Like, it stays there. I think UE5 is a really powerful engine. It's capable of a lot. But because it's supposed to jump into so many different things, like you can make a first person shooter with it, third person, and the way people are supposed to optimize the game, they just don't. It leads to some problems, especially with like shaders and stuff. Without me getting into too much nerdy development things, it leads to some problems. But I appreciate everybody for dropping on in. We got Sappho. Says it takes 10 Series S's to drive a semi. Poison Maniac says, didn't King David from ILP break the news of this deal in the first place before Tassie wrote an article? I think so. I remember a couple people saying that, like, Microsoft's comment on it. I remember seeing that pretty early before articles. Like I think Jez had a piece about it, essentially saying, like, I think I'm hearing from Microsoft that they are in a deal with Sony, and then people just be like, you're wrong, Jez. Well, where'd you get your info from? So I remember seeing that. But yeah, I remember King David also having saying that pretty early on as well. Do you remember that, Fuzz?
Yeah, I definitely remember him saying something about it, like, because it didn't make sense. And like, we've seen other devs get, larger or more, graphically intense games to run on the Series S. The whole thing with the split screen stuff, the split screen co-op for the Series S on Baldur's Gate. I think they just recently did the update for that, but they actually got it on the Series S when they didn't even think it was possible. I mean, sometimes the devs have to be kind of, dragged by the hand, I guess, to some extent, to get their games to be optimized. But I don't know. I just, something didn't pass the sniff test, and kind of figured if it's not a money deal per se, maybe it's a engineer deal where they are sending additional help like they did for Callisto Protocol and a few other games. Who knows? But yeah, they were partnered, whatever that partnership entails, money, tech, teams, resources of some sort. Yeah, that explains more than, oh, yeah, the Series S is just too complicated. It's almost like, well, if it's too complicated for you, hey, go talk to LYINN or something. Or just talk to all the other devs that have gotten their games to work. Like even Remedy, famously, some of their devs were like, oh, it's not enough memory and blah, blah, blah. But yet Alan Wake 2 was running smoother on I guess it was like its mode for the Series S than it was on the PS5 initially. So there's that. I don't know.
Yeah. And to Poison, because Poison says Microsoft didn't. He said Microsoft also didn't deny the devs in that case. Also, I think what I think about that is what I kind of said in that episode, where like development priorities in a way. Just again, modern day development, the way it works and the way developers tend to optimize games nowadays compared to how they used to optimize games it's like you can't just blame the Series S for a lot of stuff, especially if the minimum spec is matching below Series S requirements in a lot of these games with popular cards. If you look up the Steam cards, I think people are starting to get some newer graphics cards and things like that, but for majority of people with lower minimum specs being the popular card, like the problem actually isn't the Series S, in my opinion, is the PC. But that's a conversation for another day. Because yeah, like PC Master Race, sure, but the fact that a lot of development actually goes to a million different specs for PC, you can't, if you are putting any game on the PC, you can't really blame the Series X or S at that point, because you're already developing for so many variety of specifications for different graphics cards and whatever. And then you're also putting on the Series S, like, yeah, like there's a lot there, in my opinion. So we got one more article, and sorry, my stream Sony was really trying to get me in that last topic, by the way. Like it was freaking out. So I'm just gonna keep it on this little thing. I'll try to put up the Switch 2 footage I have, because we're gonna dive into our third topic. It's a smaller one, but I thought we would bring it up for today. So some recent reports have surfaced regarding, let's see what it does, the pre-order dates for I'll just leave on this Switch 2. Initially, a blog post from Best Buy Canada suggested that pre-orders would begin on April 2nd, 2025, coinciding with a Nintendo Direct event focused on the new console. However, this post was quickly removed, leading to some confusion. Subsequent leaks from internal documents of a major US retailer indicate that pre-orders might actually start on April 9, 2025, with the console's official launch anticipated in June of this year, 2025. There are some anticipated features and pricing, that Nintendo Switch is rumored to feature an 8-inch LCD display and maintain backward compatibility. I'm pretty sure. Is it rumored? I thought it was confirmed at this point. Maybe I don't follow Nintendo as much, but I thought this was basically confirmed. Especially with all the Switch 2 things out there already. Yeah. But it said it's rumored to feature an 8-inch LCD display, maintain backward compatibility with most original Switch games. I don't like the language there. Like, what do you mean most? I don't know. Just saying.
There's probably going to be a handful of digital ones or something that might not be, or something like that.
It's interesting.
Resell it.
Yeah. It's like this specific version works, but this one doesn't. There's also speculation about adaptive AI upscaling to enhance the visual quality of existing titles. Pricing estimates vary, with figures ranging from $349 to $399, though some sources suggest it could be as high as $500. Interesting. So it says, despite reports that Nintendo has been stockpiling units to meet demand, retailers are preparing for the possibility of quick sellouts once pre-orders go live. This anticipation is based on the expected high demand and limited allocations that stores might receive. So yeah, It's looking like Switch 2 is starting to gear up in rumors, and it's coming out. It's so weird that it's coming out this year. I don't know why it feels like, oh yeah, Switch 2, a couple of years from now we hear about it. But no, we're here. It's supposed to be this year. So Fuzz, is this something are you going to get the Switch 2? Is this something you're excited about? Like what are you thinking?
I'm not the normal Nintendo gamer, but this is one of those times it's like I'm almost tempted to buy one just for scalping purposes. Uh, I know that sounds evil, but like right now there aren't that many Nintendo games that I'm really into. Most of the games I'm into are either on Xbox or PlayStation or PC to some extent. A handful of the games that I was interested in for like the original Switch eventually were either on PC. So if I get one, it's probably to have the tech, maybe do an unboxing, and then probably sell it and make a profit from it. I don't know. I've just never really been the Nintendo guy. I've been more of the Sega guy. But it is cool that this launch is pretty much right around the corner. Like I think the big thing that Nintendo did that didn't sink this ship from get-go was the mentioning of like backwards compatibility with Switch One, at least for a majority of the titles and stuff like that. Um, I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of their Switch library that are looking over at like that thing better work because they're probably going to trade in their original Switch for the Switch 2 type of deal. So
Yep.
to be able to carry that stuff over would be awesome. If they didn't do it that way, yeah, that would probably rub people the wrong way. Not saying that would really hurt sales, but it probably hurt it enough where this wouldn't be selling like gangbusters like the first one. But this thing is going to move units. I'm curious to see how soon they get Call of Duty or how soon they get other big third party titles. Like, will this actually be able to run GTA 6? Like, I have my doubts, but who knows? I mean, considering GTA 6 is only for next gen, and this is like PS4 Pro, Xbox Series, or Xbox One X range. I don't know if that's in the cards for GTA 6, but at least Call of Duty, since that's still on the PS4 and Xbox One generation, should definitely be doable and stuff. But I might get one, but it's like a 50-50. Like this would be more of an impulse buy. But like I said, I love my Steam Deck. The only thing that I plan on replacing my Steam Deck with is a Steam Deck 2 or the Xbox handheld. A Nintendo Switch 2 probably isn't going to cut it for me, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the tech, at least.
Yeah, if anything, like if you guys watch, everybody in the chat at least have seen one of our shows, how much we've dissed, at least me. I've dissed the Switch quite a bit. I always talk about how their graphics suck and they have tiled grass and they have to rely on the cartoony graphics to get by. And I've been pretty critical of the Switch, but it's out of love. Okay, I grew up playing Nintendo and I just want better. I want better for it. So with Switch 2, like, I have such low standards. I'm like, please at least be like PS4. Like I should be, if I should be expecting like have the best graphics. You guys are in like first place and stuff, but no, my standards are like at least have PS4 graphics. So I think they're doing that just based on some of the leaks that it's somewhat of a PS4 Xbox One type machine, which is amazing for developers because a lot of developers opted out of developing for the Switch just because they're like, yeah, I basically have to make a whole new potato game to get my game to work on this dang thing. Like with all my Series S talks, right? That is like another level of potato for the Switch. Like it's not the same x64 architecture, whatever. It's just like to get a game to work on the Switch is very interesting challenge. This is coming from complaints I've heard internally and things. You know, it's just it's a potato. It's a fun potato that has motion controls. So my hope for the Switch 2 is the potato is a little bit more potatoing and has a little bit better graphics, and that's all I can hope. And I think Poison or someone mentioned in the chat of like double dipping. I think it was Poison. I saw it for like a brief second. Sorry if it's someone else and I'm putting it, but I think Poison mentioned something about like double dipping, and I am sure Nintendo is gonna re-release games on the Switch 2. Like this is the Switch 2 version of this game. I am sure that's gonna happen here. So just be ready for it, I guess. Like, yes, I'm glad they're doing backwards compatibility. That's a plus for sure. I think that just needs to be standard going forward as people are moving into the next generation of gaming and stuff. Like, we need to be able to just have our library just go in with these new ecosystems. Like, that should just be standard from now on. So I'm excited just because, like, graphically I'm just interested in what the Switch 2 can do. I just want to see what it's capable of. I have pretty low standards already, so if my standards are broken from what I'm picturing in my head, I will be ranting on this show about because my standards are already low. If you somehow break my very low standards, we're gonna talk Nintendo. We are gonna talk. But let's read some of our chats, and then we'll get on out of here. We got several people in here. Appreciate y'all. People still blaming the Series S for many things. Yeah, I agree. Be Nice says Series S fault. GTA 6 has been in development for 10 years. Yep, I agree. We got Sappho saying I need to switch to just so I can play or finish a Zelda game. I usually quit a Zelda game when the performance starts to tank. Yeah. It's weird. Like, it's fun to play on like a screen like that. But it's like weird from going from a game like I don't know, let's just say Division 2. Super smooth, like super nice reflections and whatever. And then you jump on a Switch game and you're like, whoa. It's like you really have to reassess your brain, your gamer brain for a second. Like, this can't be graphically good. I'm just having fun, I'm just about the gameplay and stuff. You have to, like, I don't know, I'm a graphic man now, just a little bit, right? I just want my game to run good, look decent. But when things start potatoing, I'm just like, so anyways, we got Eastside Vandal says Series S is holding the old Switch back. Like, how's that possible? Oh man, you guys are funny. Poison Maniac also says pretty sure that's a target is PS4 and Xbox One gen power and handheld. I don't know if that entails the pro version of the consoles. Yeah. That's what I'm curious about. Like, I would rather PS4 Pro as opposed to base PS4. So yeah, I want to know more about the specs and like, because I don't know if it's officially been announced. I just want to like dive in one day and really look at the specs. But yeah, I hope pro versions of those consoles for sure.
I'm hoping if it doesn't have it in raw specs, hopefully the DLSS aspects, hopefully it can carry it into that, like like an up-res, clean up the artifacting and all that stuff. we can hope.
Yeah,
That's about
yeah.
the best we can do.
Yeah, I think we all have lower standards for Nintendo on the which we shouldn't, by the way. I should be like, man, we're about to get next gen consoles. Switch is about to run GTA 6 on at least 40 frames or something like that. Like I should have those hopes and dreams, right? But Nintendo just crushes it. RSA fan says, and for the love of Joe, let us emulate some games without us getting in trouble for it. Yeah, Nintendo is brutal when it comes to emulation. Yeah, I'm actually scared to emulate some games from Nintendo, but to be honest with you. Froggy says, great show as usual, guys. Appreciate you, Froggy. Decado says, where's my Division 3? Oh, Series S. Yeah, the dang Series S is causing the delay of Division 3. Poison says, I mentioned double dipping from third party. If you tap my name and go to channel activity, 3-bit should see my chats this live stream and I was streaming. Yeah. Okay. You said I knew it was you. I just I'm doing like a million things behind the scenes that you guys do not see. So I was not sure, but appreciate you, man. Punty says, do you think Nintendo will go out on a limb and use AI to supplement the performance for the Switch 2? They did mention AI, Fuzz. I'm guessing that's going to be for the textures and stuff, but what do you think about AI on the Switch 2? What do you think it's going to do?
I think it's I mean, a lot of these companies are looking to do DLSS like stuff with AI, so I'm hoping it's that. I can't really imagine it being like what PlayStation patents are showing or with this Copilot thing that Microsoft is talking about for Xbox. I don't know if we need like, oh, hey, I need a guide to get past this boss kind of thing. I mean, that's all cool stuff, but I think AI would be better used to, uplift the visuals or make it so maybe I hate talking about fake frames for like the 40 series and newer cards, but something along those lines, like a frame gen kind of thing possibly would be kind of cool. If it makes the playing experience smoother, I'm all for it. But if it's to kind of figure out, hey, what games can we sell you based on this AI assistant we put in the hardware, they can keep that.
Yeah. I hope it's better frame rates, textures. I mean, they need some help, so I'll take whatever they give. But appreciate everybody for dropping on by. Be nice. I'll read yours. I say this on the visual mark, my standards aren't high for Nintendo games. Nintendo standards are high with gameplay. Their game mechanics are awesome and stays fresh. That I agree with. I mean, I love Smash Bros. I would play that for hours with my family and friends. Mario Golf, weirdly, I freaking really liked that game. Freaking Mario Kart. I keep mentioning Mario games, but Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild is really good. Like the gameplay, I've never questioned their gameplay mentality or anything like that. I think they're really good at it. I think they're just graphics are very potato-y sometimes, or they rely on a style because of what's in their system. Like I would love for them to imagine like Breath of the Wild on like a Series X, like with them fully taking all the capabilities or something like that, or even like let's go PC. Like what if it's on like a 4090 Breath of the Wild? Like this, that would look so good in my brain, but you may never see that future.
My dream for Nintendo to win me over as a potential customer and fan, allow some of your classics to be playable on PC. Like even if they do a PC launcher for just their classics, none of the Switch 1 or 2 titles, but just their classics, I might consider it.
Yeah.
I know that might be a stretch. Like the emulation thing would be great, but I don't know why they don't just make their own launchers. Like all the old games, you buy the ROM, $5 to $50 or whatever the case may be. I own it. I can play it on my Steam Deck. I can play it on my ROG Ally, PC, laptop, wherever. Just do that, Nintendo. But, you still have the wherewithal to be able to sell your new hardware and your new games. And then for some of us that like some of the classics, that might be the answer or the alternative.
Yeah. I appreciate everyone for dropping on in. This was a fun show, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And Poison ends the show is ending because of 3-bit and the Series S with their potato power combined. I'll take it. Fuzz, get us on out of here, brother. Where can people find you and what you got going on for the week?
Oh, as always, it's awesome doing this show with you, 3-bit. Love doing this, talking about the industry and gaming in general. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Greatly appreciate you guys coming out. And thank you, Web Dave, for bringing some more people over. Greatly appreciate it. Everybody, be safe out there. Enjoy gaming. Play some games. Dial out the social media a little bit more to get more gaming time in there. But if you want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, you can find me on pretty much all social media except Facebook. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere. You'll be able to find me. And then I guess we'll be doing kind of like a Pixelated Echoes Part 2 on FSP Monday.
Yep.
Got some decent games coming out this week. One in early, if you do the premium edition, really looking forward to. I think I'm going to do that $10 upgrade. But I think I'm going to wind up buying a deluxe edition at some point. The one with the album, if it's still available, with the vinyl record and stuff. So we'll see. South of Midnight. Can't wait to play it. But man, everybody know where they can find you, 3-bit.
Yeah, everyone can find me on the bluest of skies. I 3-bit here on this show, of course. Tomorrow, fun speculation. FSP with, like Fuzzy said, it will be like Pixelated Echoes Part 2, so be sure to drop on by. We have a lot of fun with that shows. We have a section called Tidbits where we look at trailers. Fuzz puts together the lists and stuff for games of the week, so definitely fun time, so go check that out. My week has been insane. I was like a fake gamer this week, barely able to play any games, but AC Shadows, thinking about streaming it this week, so just look out for that. Other than that, I will see you guys on the next episode. Be sure to hit that comment, like, subscribe, all the things on the way out. Helps out the show. And love you all. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye, y'all.